Hello everyone. I've just done a guide recently about the pre-class change archer, the Wayfarer, and now the moment you've all been waiting for again. I have for you a full guide to the class change archer Ranger. And let me tell you, this class is something special. It is probably one of the coolest DPS classes from a visual point of view. And it's just like when you start reading the skills and understanding how it comes together, like when I started reading the skills, because keep in mind, my main class is an assassin, and this is my wife's account. And so when I was starting to understand how this build, this character actually works and why the skills are best in slot, I just had a big smile on my face because I was like, this is genius. This build is hilarious and I love it. And it really is an absolute, like when I'm explaining the skills, you'll watch, like it'll start kind of confusing and then it'll all fall together like like an amazing puzzle falling into place. Like it is a really fun class. Now, when I describe my two builds on Assassin, I described Shadow Lash, the base class, as a core skill abusing class. Then when I did my Darkblade guide, I described Darkblade as a tactical skill abusing class. And here we have Ranger, a basic attack abusing class. And boy oh boy, if you thought that Wayfarer fired attacks quickly, this Ranger is on another level. So let's jump right in and start understanding what makes this class so utterly absurd. So, as before with all my previous class guides, we're going to start with a detailed analysis and overview of these skills. What you're looking at here is the best in slot build for Ranger. And let's analyze why that is and come to understand what makes this class tick. So, first off, we have the core attack, Hawk Arrow. Now, let's read the description. Hawk Arrow rapidly shoots 5 surprise shots, each dealing 470% attack of physical damage. Then after dealing damage to the current target 3 times with surprise shot, trigger a Falcon dive. A Falcon will be summoned to deal 936% attack as physical damage to all enemies, while reducing damage to non-current targets by 40%. Okay, so what is a Falcon dive? There it is. You can see it happening on screen right now. Let's watch battle for a few seconds here. The Falcon dive is exactly what it sounds. You literally have falcons diving in from off screen and swooping down on your enemies. If you're a bird lover, this is the class for you because you will have so many birds flying around on your screen you won't know what to do with yourself. So this is one of the main mechanics of this build. It is these falcons that dive in and attack all enemies, and they are cool. A very cool visual mechanic to have on screen, and you can always tell when you have a ranger in the party with you because the entire screen is filled with all these birds diving in. Visually, it's one of the most noticeable class gimmicks mechanics in the game, and I think it's quite cool. So back to the build. Here you have Hawk Arrow. We've established that this shoots 5 surprise shots, and every 3 surprise shots you trigger a Falcon dive, dealing a lot of physical damage. Okay, so now we understand how this works. Let's start looking at the rest of the skills, and I want you to bear with me because it's going to be a little confusing, and then the further we go through the skill build, it's all going to finally start clicking into place. But you have to stick with through the process, and I will try to explain it as best as I can. So let's start with the tactical skills, and the best way, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Now let's start with the tactical skills, and with the leftmost skill here, which are all the best in slot skills, Falcon Assault. Upon casting, immediately triggers 6 Falcon dives on the current target, dealing physical damage equal to 1248% attack to all targets. That's a lot of damage, as they say. So as the skill suggests, this is a very nice way to get a lot of damage very quickly. It is a burst skill, an AoE burst skill dealing 6 Falcon dives and a lot of damage output. So that is how the skill works, and it is a very high damage output skill. As we can see here, Falcon Assault has just done 37 million damage and basically one shot alongside Hunting Sweep, which we'll explain in a second, the entire mini mobs on the journey stage here. Sorry, my brain lagged for a second. So very, very powerful attack. Next up, you have Hunting Sweep. Hunting Sweep summons a Falcon to fire feathers, dealing physical damage equal to 2,340% to enemies in a frontal fan-shaped area. Plus, as an added benefit, increase basic attack damage taken by affected enemies from you by 31% for 8 seconds. So we had already said this is a basic attack abusing class, which we will slowly get to, and here we have a big damage attacking frontal AoE that also increases the damage taken from your basic attacks by enemies. So very, very nice skill and an integral part, a very important part of this build, which is slowly falling into place here. So next up you have Flow State, which is also a best in slot for the base class Wayfarer. You still have it on your bar, it is still best in slot for class change 1. So that is very, very nice to know, especially if you're currently playing a Wayfarer and looking forward to your class change. If you can get more copies of Flow State, you'll use it in your base class and you'll be using it again in your first class change as a Ranger. And upon casting, increase attack speed by 65% per 7 seconds and increase all damage by 11.7%. If you're a basic skill abusing class and you have a 65% increase in attack speed for 7 seconds, this is like heaven. This is like the complete bread and butter, an amazing skill to have. Any attack speed you can get is just gonna supercharge your basic attack speed. So very, very good. We have our 3 tactical skills, but so far we're still sort of kind of understanding that the class seems to have some benefit from basic attacks. We see there's a bunch of hawks diving on screen, but this is where the build really comes together in your passive skills. And as we start reading this, you're gonna go, oh, I understand now, because I had that moment more than a couple times when I was reading these passive skills, and it's pretty epic. So let's start on the leftmost skill here, Feather Burst. Now, for every 3 casts of Falcon Dive triggered on the current target, Feather Burst will be triggered after the next Surprise Shot. Surprise Shot, don't forget, is the attack triggered by the Hawk Arrow. Rapidly shoot 5 Surprise Shots. So after 3 Falcon Dives triggered on the current target, this skill deals damage after the next Surprise Shot, dealing 2,090% attack to all enemies in the current area. So this is another big AoE skill, and we've just established with Falcon Assault plus with the Surprise Shots from Hawk Arrow, you're going to be getting a lot of Falcon Dives, and this is going to be doing massive AoE bursts every time you have 3 Falcon Dives followed by a Surprise Shot. So very, very nice big AoE damage output in this skill here. Next up, you have Surprise Flurry. This is everything. If you had to ask what is the most important skill in the entire Ranger build, it is this one. And let's understand why. This is it. This is where this whole build suddenly comes together and clicks. Basic attack becomes Surprise Shot after casting Hawk Arrow, but its damage is still considered basic attack damage. Lasts for 10 seconds. Ambush Arrow. Damage increased by 30%, but after casting, Hawk Arrow enters a 10-second cooldown. So what does this mean exactly? And why is this so good? So what this passive does is it puts a 10-second cooldown on your core attack, which you'll see here in a second. When it casts next, there, it enters a 10-second cooldown, and you can see it's got full energy, but it's not casting. So in exchange for putting your core skill on a 10-second cooldown, all of your basic attacks become surprise shots for 10 seconds. So remember, the core skill gives 5 surprise shots. And every 3 surprise shots you trigger a Falcon dive. And with this passive, we've just put the Hawk Arrow core skill on a 10-second cooldown, and in exchange converted all of your basic attacks to surprise shot, which means every 3 basic attacks you're gonna trigger a Falcon dive. Do you know how many birds that is? Like, this is crazy. So this is why this build is so wild. This is why I call this a basic attack abusing class, because it is all about this. You are converting your core attack, your core skill, into a 10-second cooldown skill that enables all of your basic attacks while still being considered basic attack damage for all calculations to become surprise arrow for 10 seconds. Wow. How cool is that? I mean, I thought that Darkblade was a cool class. This takes the cheese, or the birds, depending on how you want to look at it. And now we look back and we say, okay, well, Hunting Sweep, gee, look, this increased basic attack damage taken by enemies by 31%. So all of a sudden we're starting to see the synergy coming. Oh my god, increase attack speed by 65%? So not only are basic attacks becoming surprise shot to trigger birds, but we're now increasing attack speed by 65% to trigger even more birds and more surprise shots? Like, and this, you know, oh my gosh, like, it's all just adding up and adding up and adding up, and you have this insane synergy. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of like maybe a bit fanboying a bit about this class, but when I started understanding this, I thought, man, I was like, did I choose the right class here? Did my wife get a 1-up on me playing the better class, the more fun class? So anyway, let's move on to the next passive skill here, Spreadshot. Now Spreadshot, basic attacks, oh boy. Basic attacks deal additional damage to other enemies around the target, but the damage to other additional targets is reduced by 50%, plus it increases your physical damage by 27%. So now we have a class that has just converted its core skill to supercharge all your basic attacks into surprise shots, which are going to trigger Falcon dives, and now we have Spreadshot, which suddenly then converts all of your surprise shots basic attacks into AoE. So now you're hitting multiple targets, you're just dealing huge AoE damage. This class is the king of AoE. In Class Change 1, I would not be surprised if this is the #1 AoE damage class, and I've seen absurd numbers. Like in waves, this class can do crazy amounts of DPS in excess of 50 million damage per second, and more and more and more, up to insane levels. So this is the AoE king. So anyway, back to this. You're now turning your basic attack, which you're spamming like crazy, and converting it into an AoE and increasing physical damage dealt. A complete no-brainer for this build, and another important skill. Next up, you have Tranquil Mind. Oh my god, how many basic attack enhancements does this class have? Apparently all of them. Increased basic attack damage by 34% and the crit rate of basic attacks by 18%. So, no-brainer. This is a basic attack abusing class, and I hope you understand what I meant by that now that I've explained this far. And here we have a skill that increases basic attack damage and the crit rate of basic attacks. Complete no-brainer. We love it, we want it, we have it equipped. Another best in slot passive skill. And now the final passive skill, Falcon's Momentum. When dealing damage, that means any source of damage, completely skill damage, basic attack damage, etc., increase the basic attack damage the target takes from you by 2.8% for 5 seconds up to 14 stacks. Now this class is going to be absolutely blasting basic attacks. So again, this is a buff that's going to be pretty much active all the time. And 14 stacks times 2.8, that's like just above 30% more basic attack damage taken. So all in all, you have so many synergies in this class, so many synergies in these skills chosen here, and just tons of basic attack enhancements, attack speed enhancements, and so on and so forth. So this is a very, very fun and interesting class. that is built around turning your core skill into a cooldown and converting your basic attacks into surprise shots and just spamming them like crazy, dealing massive amounts of damage and summoning loads and loads of Falcon dives. This is why I said this class is just spamming birds like crazy all over the place when it's fighting in battle. So very, very, very fun class. So now that we have the skills explained, and I'm sorry that I went a bit overly excited while explaining that. I just thought it was such a cool class. Now we move on to talents, and let's explain the talent selection here, because in the base class it was all left side. Excuse me, all left side, and now here we have left side, right side, left side, left side. So let's understand why we've made those choices. I can now look at this. Basic attack blessing or Falcon's grace. Do I even need to read the talent to explain to you why the left side was chosen here? Let's click on it anyway. When casting flow state for the first time at the start of battle, increase basic attack damage by 25% for 10 seconds. Perfect, great. More basic attack damage at the start of battle, very good. You're going to increase your opening damage. Can't say no to that. Next up, you choose Falcon's blessing. For each Falcon dive triggered, increase physical damage in this battle by 1% up to 15 stacks. This basically means you're going to have 15% additional damage pretty quickly into the fight, because you're going to spam Falcon dives like crazy, and I wouldn't be surprised if this stacks up in literally the first 10 seconds of battle or less. Next up, you have Collected Mind. Tranquil Mind increases the crit damage of the basic attack by 50%. I didn't even know this existed, but good lord, okay. Very, very powerful. Even more crit damage, even more damage output of your basic attack. That's really, really good. Next up, and this Tranquil Mind was the one that increased the damage and crit rate of your basic skills, if you don't remember. And finally, we end up with Energy Arrow. Energy Arrow, for every 100 energy, increase the basic attack damage dealt to the current target by 10%. Oh my. So yeah, this is very, very powerful. So every time, I believe, yeah, for every 100 energy, increase the basic attack damage dealt to the current target by 10%. Good lord, yeah, I mean, that's really good because of how we've changed the class. Yeah, very, very good skill. Easy to understand why that's best. Yeah, no, this is definitely better. I was just checking the other one to see, is it even remotely close? But no, this is really, really good. So you increase your basic attack damage by 10% for every 100 energy. That's pretty insane. So there you have it. These are the best in slot talents for Hawk Arrow, which is the main talent disc for this build. And then second of all, you have Lightning Reflex. Now, there are quite a lot of talent discs that unlock into Class Change 1, and you may say, oh, well, I don't like Determination. Now, there is probably slightly different approaches you can choose here, but because of how important Determination is, this is a totally fair choice to choose for this build. So this one here, this talent disc increases your Determination. You get a 700% Fury as well, and when triggering a Determination, increase the damage to this hit by 5%. So as you get higher Determination, this just overall increases your damage output a lot. So very good talent disc, but again, in Class Change 1, you do have a bit of flexibility with which ones you want to choose. There's, like, for example, Forging Foundation is still arguably okay. Hasten cooldown, not very important. Voice of Bloodlust, if you've got enough Determination from your stats and you want to get a bit more crit damage, you could do that, etc. But this is a totally perfect option as well, Determination in this case. So when it comes to pets, again, it's going to be the same as the base class Wayfarer, but I will explain it again just because it's a separate video. Your best in slot pet is going to be the Demon Hound. This is the #1 pet in the game for all DPS, and it is your go-to for damage output. Absolutely the best. We're going to go through it again. When triggering a crit hit or Determination, increase damage by 72%. When triggering both the damage bonus stacks, every Determination and crit hit together will deal 144% damage if they stack. Huge damage potential. And then the two best special skills for this class are going to be Echo, especially good for a ranged DPS class like a Ranger, because you get the additional effect here, and Your Turn. Every 10 seconds, increase damage taken by all current enemies from you by 24%, and when there's only one enemy, this effect is doubled. Now, some people will suggest running, for example, Arcane Resonance or attack-based skills, but damage is the best. And I actually am going to be releasing a video relatively soon explaining and showcasing why damage is better than attack and other Melomon. So that's your best in slot for Melomon. When it comes to moves, the best in slot moves are going to be the ones that support you getting the stats that you need to balance your perfect stats loadout. So I will explain the stats quickly. It's pretty much the same as a lot of DPS, the same as the base class. So your priority is going to be the same. You want to get your accuracy to probably around 106% or so, because the higher level bosses have higher accuracy requirements. You're going to still keep your crit and determination around that 35% mark. Plus or minus 3 or 4% is okay, but you do want to try to stick around that and not go too crazy. Next, you have Haste and Mastery, which are both very important for this build. Mastery deals a lot of damage, and you can start to get more and more of it as you get higher level gear. And then followed up, you have crit damage. And of course, attack is in there too as a very important stat. So after you get your accuracy, crit, and determination up to their required levels, 35, 35, and like 106 roughly, then you can start putting on lots of attack and haste and mastery as well, followed by crit damage. That's your stats priority. And on moves, just to go back, you're going to choose the moves to support that stat priority. So that's what you want to do. So that's basically Ranger in a nutshell. It is a crazy hawk dive, insane basic attack spamming, and very unique class. I mean, this is the only class that I've seen so far that actually has a passive skill that puts its core skill on cooldown in order to convert basic attacks into a different skill completely, yet still be considered basic attack for the purpose of damage calculations. Very unique, very interesting skill, very interesting class. And honestly, I'm glad I made this video because I was impressed to learn about this class more than my own class. Like, God, why am I playing a Darkblade? I want to reroll as a Ranger. This seems a lot more fun. Anyway, so that's it for this video. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, if you feel like there's something I missed or something that you feel could be improved, feel free to leave a comment below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know when the next video is going to be uploaded. And join the Discord if you haven't already. Plenty of like-minded gamers on the Discord ready to chat about the game and many other games that we have covered previously on our channel. So that's a wrap from me. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.